What's up? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited because I'm joined today by two incredible digital Billy Grahams, Christian Patterson, and we've got Caleb Callahan in the house with us today. It's going to be an incredible episode because here's two young men in the city of San Antonio who are taking Christ to culture in different ways. They've been doing it for a long time. So let me ask you guys to introduce yourself first. Caleb, you kick us off. Tell us a little bit about you. What are you doing with your life? What's happening?
So as John introduced, I'm Caleb Callahan. I grew up in Schertz, which is about 40 minutes that way, pretty far from here. I grew up playing soccer. I also grew up in the church. I grew up in a Baptist church. So I grew up in a Christian family, and then around high school, I really met the Lord, and I had a passion already for serving people, and I had a passion for speaking to people, and I have a pretty natural outgoing personality, and I started serving at my local church a while ago, and then things just started happening one after another. I found a passion for preaching and for sharing the Word of God with my friends, and from there on out, I prayed about it and found myself in the calling to eventually pastor in the future.
I love it. Incredible. What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I am Christian Patterson. I grew up in Germany most of my life and then moved here to the United States, so I've been here ever since around 5th grade, 6th grade. I grew up in a church home, more non-denominational, kind of strayed away from upbringings here and there, but around my senior year, I came back. And I started doing, online videos, just, sharing things that God put on my heart. And from there, I kind of just desired a passion to want to teach the Word, kind of. And so right now, I'm in school, studying philosophy at a secular school, which is quite interesting. Had a lot of clashes with my professors, a lot. But yeah, I met this great guy right here, John Gross, and he hooked me up with a job at a church called the Fellowship of San Antonio. And so right now I'm in an intern position for the youth director up there. And so I have about 3 more months left. So I'm doing that at school. And once I get my associates, I plan on transferring to Liberty while do biblical studies and hopefully go to seminary, and we'll see what happens from there.
That's amazing. Both of you started creating content even beginning on TikTok or Instagram, both with the intention of reaching a generation for Jesus. What was it about social media that made you go, this is the place where I need to be?
I know for me, when I started social media, TikToking, whatever you want to call it, I hate the word Christian influencer. For some reason, that just sounds so cringy to me. Anyways, when I started it was at a time through TikTok where it's like a whole bunch of young people were, getting on a TikTok and sharing their faith. And we had to call it like the fire period, I guess you can call it, where everything was just, great. That was the peak of everything for Christian TikTok. And so, I saw all these young people, getting involved and being outspoken about their faith. And I was like, hey, I want to do the same thing. And so, I did the exact same thing, got on, started just sharing things that God was putting on my heart. And that's something my dad always told me, like, hey, don't get on there trying to preach, just share what God's putting on your heart. And that's what I did. And from there, kind of like, had a few videos I did well and stuff, and I was like, hey, kind of like this. And so I started doing it more and more. But yeah, that's kind of how I started and got into it. And I kind of got a love for doing online ministry. So yeah.
That's incredible. What does online ministry actually look like? I'm hearing so many churches that talk about having online campus pastors. So I know that some churches are seeing a need for ministry in some way, but there are also skeptics who are like, ministry doesn't happen online, or you can't really be doing ministry until you are a certain age number, which depending on your denomination could be 25, 35, or 65. So what makes what you do ministry, and why are you doing it online?
Well, for me, I knew when I had first started following the Lord that my social media was mainly secular, and the people who followed me also were not following God. So if I wanted to reach people, what better place than where they spend the majority of their time on? A big thing that I've kind of come to learn about online ministry is that a lot of people think it's just like the videos and just posting videos, but a lot of it is interacting with the people that DM you. Like I bet Christian can also testify to this, interacting with the people who say, hey, I struggled with this thing that I saw in a testimony video that you shared. How did you navigate this, or how did you respond to this? And it's really just being more present with them, but you lack the actual in-person presence, and then you also lack the connection strong enough to speak reproof and truth into their life if they are more on the straying side.
I love that. I'm a millennial, and my wife is right on the cusp of millennial, Gen Zer, depending on who you ask. She falls into one or the other category. And one of the things that I heard a lot of the last maybe 10 years are pastors asking how to reach the millennials, blogs written, books written, all kinds of podcasts on those millennials. And typically when you say millennial, it's a derogatory word. It's like, oh, those people that don't want to work and live with their parents. And there are probably 10 other stereotypes I could throw out there. I won't. But there were all these people offering advice on how to reach millennials. And what I found to be interesting was a lot of boomers and Gen Xers had a lot of opinions and a lot of things to say. And there were not very many millennials actually talking about, hey, here's why this works or doesn't. Here's what I was looking for or wasn't. It's good to hear from the people that you are attempting to reach. You're both in the Gen Z generation, and there are so many incredible things about Gen Z and things that I want to celebrate on this podcast and even in this episode. But I'm curious, what is it that Gen Z is actually looking for? Maybe digitally, maybe in the church, maybe in life in general. I think I want to hear from your generation. What is it that you need? What is it that you want?
What type of thing about that?
A pretty broad answer that I can give, that I know a lot of people, and personally speaking, they look for happiness. And it's a big stigma in our culture that if you're single, there's something wrong with you. And if you have a girlfriend, then you're happy and life's good. For me, I learned quickly that was false, but I never had faced the reality that it was false and repented from it.
So you're saying if you have a girlfriend, your life's bad. That's what you're...
No, I said more so it was, if you're single, then it's like, what do you have? Like, what's like, it was the whole, like, oh, you got a girl? Oh, dap up. Like, you're cool, bro. Like, you got a girl? Oh, you must be happy. Got somebody to spend your time with. You got this, you got that. It's a huge stigma in Gen Z. And, I mean, speaking for myself, that was my pursuit for happiness was in a girl. And, I got cheated on 3 times, so clearly there was a lot to be learned there. And I think our generation's looking for happiness, but what they need is joy, which is coming from Christ, which they don't know what joy is, because it's such an alienated term. Like, joy that lasts through circumstances, like, what is that? Like, all we knew before was like, oh, I have this amazing girlfriend, I'm happy until we break up. And then it's like...
Then it's all gone.
All gone. It's temporary.
Christian, you are a Gen Zer. You're preaching now every week to Gen Zers and the Gen Alpha that's on the scene. I think that's the name that they're giving them now. Awesome. Incredible. But you've had videos on social media that have gone viral, that have been viewed hundreds of thousands of times. Do you have one in the millions?
Actually, I think I have 1 in the million.
You have 1 in the millions. So... you're creating a particular flavor of content because you're intuitively understanding that there are certain questions that Gen Z is asking, things that they actually need. So we're bouncing the question back to you and saying, what is it that your generation is looking for? For my pastor friend that's listening, he is trying to figure out, how do I reach young people, and do I have to be on TikTok to do it?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily to be on TikTok to reach young people. I think it's a great outlet, TikTok especially. You can get online, simply 15 seconds or 60 seconds. Now they have 3-minute options. You can say something and it can reach thousands of people, millions of people. It's a great resource, but you don't have to be online, to reach young people. I think our generation, Gen Z, I think one thing that I think Caleb pointed out a great point was happiness. That's something that a lot of us want. But I think more than that, I think that personally, things that I've seen, I think that our generation, the thing that we want most is to just simply be a part of something. I know a lot of people, especially with the whole TikTok thing, the whole TikTok scene and influencer scene now. I get a lot of DMs, a lot of messages where people are like, hey, I wish I had, community like you have, or I wish I had, friends like I see you have and stuff like that. And so I see that a common thing where it's like, hey, they just want to be a part of something, but also just be a part of not just anything, but be a part of a community that, wants to do right by God and desires to seek after God, and to, love on others and go out and share their love for Christ with others. So I think that that's the main thing that our generation wants. We just want something to be involved with, a family kind of, where we can go and say, hey, this is my family. And that's something that, me at my church now, that's something that I'm trying to incorporate, where it's like, hey, kids can come to this, and not just, come to it where it's like, hey, this is a great place where, I can grow in knowledge, grow in my understanding of the word, which that's the main thing there, but also they can come to it saying, hey, this is like my second family. And a lot of them, they have that sense there where it's like, these guys, I love them. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. I have discovered about my generation that the majority of us want to be about something. We want to have that word that defines us, or that cause that we are championing. That seems to be, based upon all of the surveys and stats, one of the driving motivators for the millennial generation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at Gen Z and I'm seeing that plus something better. Gen Z doesn't just want to be about something. Like you said, Christian, they want to be a part of something. They want to belong. I'm looking at the millennial generation that became digital, and it was a place where they compared themselves to other people. Gen Z, I'm seeing it's not just a comparison platform now, it's also a performance platform now. I compare myself to them, but I'm here to perform and create this identity in the hopes of getting the likes, shares, follows, retweets, or whatever of people that identify with the same thing that I am, so that I can be part of a community. So what does it look like to call Gen Z into community? Can we start calling them into community digitally? And if so, how would we do that?
Yeah, I think that, like I said earlier, TikTok especially, and just, online in general, it's a great way to reach young people. But I think the way that you draw people into community is our young people, especially, wanting to be a part of something, wanting to be a part of the community. The best way is to find it locally. You can have all these great online friends, all these great online people that you look up to, but you're not going to get that community that you're looking for until you find it locally. Yeah. And that's why the local church is so important, because it provides that for you. And so I'm not knocking the idea of, hey, it's great to have online friends. I have great online friends. And through online, I've met some people in my area itself. But what's more important than that is having that local community that you can be a part of. And so, yeah.
It's really cool to see how Gen Z is rescuing the American economy. It's not a political thing. There are 1, 2, maybe 3 generations that through 2020 said, I'm done working. I'd like to collect free money. And I'm driving around San Antonio and seeing signs everywhere, help wanted, help needed. And it's not because everybody died or moved to another country. It's that people are sitting at home, where Gen Z is entering the workforce at unreal numbers and rescuing, the food and service industry. Everywhere I go, I'm seeing Gen Zers. And I was talking with a 16, 17-year-old guy this last week and asking him about that. And I was amazed at the principles that he had, like the guiding guidelines for his life that I'm going, where did you learn that? Your parents? And he's like, no, I started following this guy on YouTube and he really helped me. And it caused me to start reading this guy over here, not even a Christian, but living this committed, consistent life with some major end goals. I'm wondering, do you see some principles in the life of Gen Z that are fairly unanimous across the board? Are there some things that Gen Z is pushing for, wanting, or standing for that it would be important for us to note?
I think, me personally, because it's something I've talked to a lot of people about, that I believe our generation does very, very well, better than most generations. And I think that it's the theme of, just wanting to serve others. Our generation, we have a love for, just spreading the gospel, getting involved in community. Like we said earlier, that desire to be a part of community, that desire to be a part of something. Yep. And so I believe that's something that we do very, very well is, loving on others, just simply loving, desiring to go out into other parts and share the gospel with people. Now, I think that sometimes in our ambition, to love on others, we can lose sight of that. It's important that we're doing it the right way, especially theologically. But I think that that's a very great thing that we do, that, we just want to go out and we want to go into the community and make a difference.
Gen Z is extremely welcoming and open, and I think I see one of their principles being inclusivity. I still have a Twitter account. I'll log into Twitter. I know probably neither of you have one or use it. If you do, it's mostly old people on there. It seems like politicians and old pastors, and it looks like a cesspool of controversy. It's like you can't post anything without all kinds of people just coming for you. Is what really the best way I can say it. I'm not seeing that a ton in Gen Z. I'm seeing is Gen Z standing up for people. So they're coming for you if they feel like you're attacking that person. Is that true? Why is that, if it is? I could be totally wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong.
People definitely are attacking. Like, if you get towards more the secular side of TikTok, oh my goodness. Like, you can scroll for 10 minutes and you can just see stitches, like somebody says something and then somebody stitches their own response to it, and they say, okay, but actually this, and they'll go on straight up like video wars on TikTok. But there is a large group, like specifically in fitness TikTok, working out TikTok. There was this trend once where it would be a guy lifting, a guy hitting a PR, a personal record, and somebody would stitch their personal record, or stitch them repping their personal record, and then there would be a guy that's much bigger than him defending the smaller guy. So you do see that happening almost, I would say, like 75% of the time, compared to as frequently as people are coming at each other.
So yeah, there's a whole, what you're saying is there's still a massive competition culture that exists.
Oh yeah, Gen Z is insanely competitive.
And what I hear you saying as well is that truth is subjective, right? Like you said, that people are stitching other people's videos and going, but actually I think the answer is, I am seeing that where subjects are being debated and it's really personal opinions that are being cited as the source for truth. Whereas I am seeing Gen Z as the greatest unchurched generation in modern history. It's not that they've abandoned the church, it's that they've never been a part of it. So I want to circle around to the spiritual aspect and say, first of all, what is it that Gen Z is looking for in a person or a leader to follow? Not just digitally, but in person.
So I think the main thing that I've seen in my experience is someone that they can relate to. My students, short time I've been at my church, I remember I just had a funny, not funny, it was like a really lighthearted thing where it's like, I was in chapel in the morning, and the kids don't know our chapel schedule, and so we alternate between leadership and our church, and I walked in and the kids were like, yes. And I was like, it made me feel good. And one of them afterwards, he was saying that like he saw me kind of like a big brother. And that's the kind of mindset I think that a lot of us have, where it's like we want someone that we can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
I personally love listening to older guys preach. I don't have like a preference or anything like that, but it is a very warm and welcoming thing when I see people my age or people younger that have a love for God and they're just preaching the Word of God. It makes me feel good because it's like, hey, these are people that I respect, but I can also look to as like, hey, this is someone that I can joke around with, I can laugh with, cry with, come to and open up with. And so I think that that's something that Gen Z looks for most in a leader, is just someone that they can relate to, also respect at the same time. So, yeah.
And I feel like that's definitely a big thing about this generation, is the relatability and how close a lot of Gen Z, like how close in age we are to like to the group of students that we will minister to. A really effective thing that I've seen in student ministry this past year is young adults serving in student ministry. Like I just recently started at a new church, just serving with the students, and I've been there for about 3 months, and God has like shown immense favor through just like being close in age with these students, and being able to relate with them has given me opportunities to minister to them on levels that you would have to be like, if I was like 5 years, 6 years older, I would have to be in tight-knit relationship with that student for at least a year to get them to let down their walls. But that relatability and closeness in age opens up doors and opens up hearts in a generation that's pretty unlikely to talk about how they feel.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's like I said, that's the case that I feel like it's a lot for all of us. Where it's like, I know me personally, I grew up where everyone around me, the leadership was always older, and I kind of longed for someone where it was like, hey, my age, and God brought that person in my life, looking right at him, and it's like, hey, I look to you where it's like, I respect you. You can put me in my place. You can put me in check real quick. And there's a respect factor where I see you as someone that I look up to. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, this is someone that I can just chill with, laugh with, and make fun of a lot of times. But yeah.
Yeah, and he does. I may be calling on the podcast and Instagram and YouTube world to come to my defense in a few of the issues. I remember being in like student ministry and looking at some pastors and people that I was like, man, they're old. And they really weren't. And I got to say, I'm sick and tired of being labeled. It feels very discriminatory. I haven't crossed the old line yet. I got another 20 years before I'm even close to old. But I appreciate the I appreciate the both of y'all. And so, closing question is: it is easy to roll around the internet without coming across Christian content. When we get into the echo chamber or the small niche of, Christian TikTok, and for those that are listening, you will hear things like Christian TikTok, fitness TikTok, vlogger YouTube. There are these little subsects of every social media platform. And so Christian Facebook, Christian Instagram, Christian YouTube is a thing, but you could search for days without coming across it because the internet is such a massive ocean. It involves billions of people from multiple languages on many continents. Here's the question: how do we get the boat to where the fish are? If the hook is the gospel, and we know that it's not a bait, it's a hook. It's the thing that draws people. If the ocean is the internet and the boat is whatever social media platform of our choice, how do we get to where the fish are? What is the content that we need to be focusing on and creating? I'm asking because I'm consulting with pastors every week who are now in their 40s and 50s asking, should I make a dance video? because I looked at that guy's, TikTok, and he was making a dance video and it did really well, but the captions on there were great. And I'm like, no, you really shouldn't make a dance video. I would you're extremely white. I would avoid it. There are people that are looking at, insert your favorite Christian content creators stuff. And they're going, wait, should I, our good friend and our brother, David Ladding, we love him so much, so we can talk about him. Like there are people that are like, wait, should I put my face all the way in the camera and like yell at people? Is that what I should do? Yeah. Should I, Elijah Lamb, should I record all my videos in my bathroom mirror? Next question, should I clean it first? The original Elijah Lamb. We've been following Elijah Lamb since day one. Alex Wilson, should all of my videos start with, so this is a cup and it gets filled with, what do I actually need to be doing is what every listener is asking. Give us a little bit of encouragement from your point of view.
I think that's,
so when I hear that, I think of, so we have like the internet, right? And then we have the boat being whatever social media platform you want. I think the greatest, lure, right?
Sure.
Bait,
Spoken like a real non-fisherman right there, but yes, go ahead.
The greatest bait that will be consistent, I believe, throughout all of social media time is your testimony. Like, I've seen... I've tried putting videos up of me talking about it instead, but finding a trend that has a sound that will kind of go with a nostalgic vibe, and finding something that goes along with the idea of, okay, how are you? And then embedding your story of how you came to Christ will really move. Like, your testimony will blow people away. Like, I've seen across boards, across... different churches of different denominations, a person just coming on the stage sharing their testimony and people being moved. I think that same idea is consistent with social media. Like, even like some of my most viewed videos on TikToks are about my testimony. Like just a short little like compilation of videos of what I was like before Christ and what I am like now will really move with people, because then they'll wonder, hey, how'd you do that? And that's where the gospel is presented.
That's really good. Christian?
I think, because I've had this question come up to me from some people in my DMs before, where it's like, hey, I want to start posting, about my faith online and stuff. Where do I get started? What do I do? What content should I make and stuff like that?
Do I need really cool hair for people to listen to me?
For those of you who aren't listening, he's referring to I had locks and I cut them off recently.
Disqualified.
But no, I've had people ask that question before. And my answer to them is always, there's not a set answer where it's like, hey, make this type of content. We all have different, passions, different things we'd like to do. Some of us are funny. Some of us have a harder time being funnier than others. Anyways, I was pointing at the old head. I'm just playing. I love you. I love this man so much. Anyways, but no. There's and that's what I love about Christian TikTok, is that it's not just this one thing. We have different people that do make comedic content, people who make fitness content and then find ways to insert their faith within there. There's people who speak, and that's another thing about it. You don't need to be speaking to make content, and that's what I feel like a misconception is, that everyone wants to jump on here and be this preacher, they want to start getting booked to fly places and go places. They want to be like Elijah Lamb and stuff. And I love Elijah. He's a great dude, but not everyone's Elijah Lamb. Not everyone's, supposed to be a teacher, and James 3:1 tells us, hey, be careful, getting into that. Be careful wanting to be a teacher. And I think that also kind of flows with, not just TikTok, but just in general. Christianity, it's kind of like turning into where a lot of people, want to get into, they want to be on the stage, they want to be seen, they want to be speaking. And not everyone has that, motivation behind it where it's selfish, but you don't always have to be speaking to, make content and reach people and share the gospel with people. We all have different passions, different desires. Find out what yours are, find out what, you like to do, and do it, and incorporate the gospel, incorporate, your faith within it. So I think that's the best advice I can give there.
I love what you said about the fact we have multiple different kind of subcategories in Christian TikTok. Like when I think about funny skit person, I think about Shama for Reals. Do you know who that is? Yeah, Shama for Reals. And then we have more teaching side, like you and Christian. And then we have like more funnier side, like Christian and partially me when I make a funny video.
Yeah, that's the thing about it too. Like you don't even have to make that's the thing. You don't even have to. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
It's like it's really find your thing, like find your niche, because it's like especially like you see it consistent with pastors. I'm not saying that everybody should be a pastor. I'm saying pastors don't just find the most popular speaker and try to speak like them. They find who they are as a speaker, and they do tailor up the speaking. They do adjust some things to be more effective, but they find who God made them to be as an influencer, and they make that effective. So that's good.
Yeah, I thought that's a great point that you brought up too, where it's like, hey, well, you kind of brought it up, where, because me personally, I don't just make, single content. I sometimes will make, hey, where I'm teaching on something, or hey, where I'm, just making funny videos. Me personally, I started to make more funny videos and just vibey videos, because that's, what I feel like doing. Yeah. But it doesn't have to even be just one single thing, we all have different giftings. And so, but that's something, since I just touched on a little bit, the whole teaching aspect, something I do want to touch on, because like I said, I feel like that can be a kind of thing where it's like, hey, this is a trend now. I asked a whole bunch of people what they want to do, and it's like, I want to be a pastor, I want to be a pastor. If that is what you want to do, and I'm not saying, that, that's not what you're called to do, but find someone that you can get under, someone who is mature, someone who has experience, so they can disciple you and also confirm that, within you, like, hey, that's your gifting. You got to do this. And so, and also just to regulate the things that you're posting. Yeah. Because you have a following on TikTok, and that's something that I realized, and I took a break from TikTok for a while, because about early 2020, I was some wild stuff, let's just say that. And I realized, I had a moment of realization. That was an interesting moment. I was a young Christian, or I still am a young Christian, but I was freshly converted to Christianity, and I was teaching a whole bunch of wild things. That's another topic that we can discuss another day, about
the danger
newly converts coming into and trying to teach. But anyways, I had a realization where it was like, hey, I have 100K followers, or 100,000 followers, and a lot of these kids hang on my every word. And I'm teaching some ridiculous stuff, and it broke me down. I was like, man, that's it shouldn't be that way. Where kids are hanging on your every word, but that's the way it is for a lot of these influencers. And so realizing, hey, if you do want to start teaching, if you do want to start, preaching on certain things, you need to find someone who can keep you accountable with the things that you're posting. Right. Because it's not a game. You're teaching the Word of God, and like I said, a lot of kids will take that and say, hey, just because Christian said it, just because Elijah said it, just because David said it, I'm gonna take it in, and I'm gonna believe it. And so that's a very important thing. But like I said, summing it all up, what do I do to get involved? What do I, what content do I make if I want to start, being passionate about my faith online? The things that you're talented at, the things that you like to do. Do it and incorporate your faith into it. So.